Welcome to Dow Stock Talk. This is a Dave Ramsey reaction video. The title is called This Is How You Go From Broke to Wealthy. No further ado, let's get into it. Oh, by the way, make sure you guys hit the like button, and if you're new, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's jump in.
Several pieces of research out there that talk about that married people who are married versus single or versus shacking up, have a financial advantage, and the researchers have always called it the marriage advantage. That they tend to build more wealth than any other category, and also tend to move as a category. It's a generalization, but I mean, in other words, there's exceptions within each category, but they also tend to move faster in their incomes and their careers.
Now, he brought up a good point. I actually did a video on, I think, as far as age, as far as net worth. According to the 2019 survey, they did show that people who are married had a higher income than single people generally, but that was in general. But let's carry on.
And researchers have long tried to figure out what is causing that exactly, but they call it the marriage advantage. That it's to your advantage statistically, as far as wealth goes, income and wealth in general, to be married.
But to play devil's advocate, I also want to look at as far as if you got a divorce, like how much impacted divorce impact the individual's net worth as well. That'd be something also interesting. But you guys, I guess they're right statistically. If you guys are married and they stay together, chances are they probably will have a higher net worth. However, a lot of marriages does end in divorce. So I'm also curious to see those numbers and how it impacted their net worth as well. Let's carry on.
Wall Street Journal comes out today with yet another study. Moving in together doesn't match the financial benefits of marriage, but why? A walk down the aisle can be a route to greater wealth and prosperity for couples in the U.S. Married people have higher net worths and are more likely to be homeowners than their unmarried counterparts their age. As of 2019, the median net worth for cohabitating checking up couples age 25 to 34 was 17,000, a quarter of that of 68,000 that married couples of exactly the same age range. So 25% the net worth of a married couple on average, according to data from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. For singles, it's $7,300. Over the past 2 decades, Americans are moving in together at higher rates, and the share of U.S. adults who are currently married steadily declined from close to 60% in the 90s to under half in 2019.
Not to cut them off, but I definitely do think if you have two individuals that are married together and they both are financially sound, it can definitely help out substantially too. It's definitely better than one, especially when you look at the compound effect as well. But let's carry on.
According to Pew, who did the research. Over the same period, the share of adults 18 to 44 living with a partner climbed to 59%. Many young couples now approach marriage as a capstone event. The sociology professor says, if you build an ark, the kind of cornerstone, blah, 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 blah. While there are legal and tax advantages to marriage, research suggests the financial security and long-term mindset of those who tie the knot may also be a powerful driver of wealth. More married couples pool their money, such as sharing savings accounts and investing together to achieve certain goals. Cohabitating couples are less likely to combine finances and investments.
For obvious reasons, of course.
Working with two incomes and combining their investments to maximize compound interest can significantly increase a couple's financial prospects, the research shows. Simply put, married people may be more likely to be on the same page financially. And housing is one of the biggest factors in establishing a couple's wealth compared with single people and cohabitating couples. Married couples hold a larger concentration of housing wealth. They're more likely to own a home if you're married than you are if you're with a roommate. Socioeconomic factors.
Not to cut them off again, but I do think it's very important to also mention that in today's age, a lot of times with the prices of houses being so expensive, it would be very, I guess, if you was just looking at it from pure numbers wise to if you did have a house that had two incomes versus one, that would make the living situation much easier when you have two people contributing to one house versus one. It frees up a lot more time, a lot more money for both individuals, whether for investing, vacations, anything in general, just per se. I just wanted to throw that out there. Let's carry on.
Play a role in the difference between married and partner wealth. The higher your income, the likelier it is you'll marry. Well, that would affect.
Wait a minute. The title is called "This is How You Go from Broke to Wealthy," but the primary thing he's just talking about is how statistically, if you were married, typically speaking, married people have a higher net worth in general than single people. But the title is literally "This is How You Go from Broke to Wealthy." Is this implying that you just get married? I don't know about that, but let's carry on.
These numbers, and that'd be a cause and effect issue right there. Which one's causation and which one's correlation at that point. But this is fresh data and showing the advantages of marriage.
And I think the couple that just did the debt free scream, they're a perfect example of this data and how it can be effective. I mean, in their story, they're talking about how they got on the same page, they set goals, they set a why, and they really learned to work together. I think a lot of people who are just cohabitating, they're not having those conversations. They're not getting into, shared goals and a shared mindset of really attacking their finances.
Well, what we do know, and this is fairly easy to extrapolate into this conversation with reasonable certainty.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that as well. She did bring up a good point, but you got to remember the primary reason is also as well is because with marriage, legally your assets are tied together. If you're not married, then assets are tied separately, which means that the each person will probably be less concerned what the other person is doing with their own money. But if you're talking about marriage, your decision, your assets, all that is kind of tied up legally. That could be something that I should just bring up. But let's carry on.
Is that there is a direct correlation between the length of your planning window, how far out into the future you look with money, and how much money you have. If you think, thank God it's Friday, oh God it's Monday, and you live for the weekend, you're Huey Lewis in the News, right? Then you're going to be broke your whole life. YOLO,
Okay, now and that ties in with the title. Okay, okay, okay. Now I was about to say, are you just going to completely talk about marriage the whole time?
right? That's where you're going to be. You're not going to have any money because you don't plan past Friday night. You're just trying to drink your face off on the weekend and forget it, and you're
There
not
you
planning.
go.
But when we interview wealthy people, the wealthier they are, the longer their planning window has been for many years, and that's what caused them to be wealthy. In other words, when they get ready to buy a car, they don't
Sorry.
think about this weekend. They don't think about this year. They think about 5 years from now. How's this car purchase going to affect me?
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%, Dave.
They have, and when you think longer term, you automatically will invest more
Mm.
because you're
Facts. Okay, Dave. Okay.
thinking long term. You're believing there is a future, and I know my future self needs to like my current self, but future self doesn't talk to um, a present self with the broker somebody is, and
Good analogy. Good analogy.
the more likely they are to be broke. So if you want to go from broke to wealthy, the point is change your planning window mindset. Quit living for the weekend and start thinking, okay, in 50 years, where do I want to be? I want
Okay, now I see how it correlates to the title. Okay. Okay, Dave. Okay, I follow.
to change my family tree. How about in 150 years? What do I want my great grandkids to be? Let's look at compound interest out 150 years
Mm.
and play with some numbers. That will blow your freaking mind, by the way.
Okay, Dave. Okay. I see.
How many hundreds of millions of dollars that can become? You can be old man Rockefeller, old man Vanderbilt, old lady Vanderbilt, whatever. Get this thing started. So
And by the way, I did test these numbers. It'd be crazy. It'd be crazy, especially if you thought about for future generations as far as just compounding. Once those numbers get up there, it becomes smooth sailing from there.
that planning window thing comes in there. So that comes into then this discussion of marriage. As if you're married, unless you are planning to divorce right now, you are thinking you're going to do life 50 years from now with this person.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah.
And when you're cohabitating, you're thinking, maybe.
This is true.
Maybe.
There's a chance there's
It's not exactly sure. And it shortens your planning window when you're shacked instead of married. And so that's one of the things that I've always thought it gives you the marriage advantage, because
I don't necessarily say that would be the case, but you wouldn't directly correlate your future with them per se. It would probably be a lot more flexible. But let's carry on. I get his point.
very few cohabitating couples think what's life going to be like in 40 years.
right. Well,
It depends on the person. I think in this one it depends on the person. If you have two people with very like-minded people who are very, into the finance world, financial freedom, building generational wealth, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that at all. But if you're just talking as a rule of thumb, blanket rule of thumb, if looking at the masses, that might be true. But it really depends on the type of person. You got business oriented people who's into finance, who's into investing. I wouldn't necessarily say that's the case, but I get it. I get what he's saying. Let's carry on.
I think it's interesting. This article says that a lot of people see it as a cornerstone event. So what this means is that people see an economic bar they need to clear before they get married. Couples wait until they have good jobs, a car that won't break down, maybe even a house, then they get married. Which I think is interesting because it's like they're trying to do something in order to get themselves ahead.
It'd be a lot easier
Right.
if they were married.
But they're actually holding themselves back.
Yeah. Yep.
That's interesting that the data shows that.
Yep.
I disagree with that, but let's carry on.
So if you're in that boat and you're feeling, hesitant to get married because you feel like you have to meet a certain barometer, you need to have a certain amount of your debt paid off, you feel like you need to have a better job or a house, that actually could be working against you. If you actually find the right partner, if you find someone that you want to be with for the rest of your life, getting married actually could set you on way better footing financially.
And it is not smart to combine your accounts with somebody you're not married to.
Totally.
And there is all kinds of data, including this
Definitely would agree with that.
data here, that says combined accounts have a tendency towards more wealth. Again, it's a unified look at the future. It's a fairly simple concept. If you're not thinking about the future, you're not going to have one.
Right.
If you're not intentional about the future, you're not going to have one. And, I don't care if you're 26 or you're 36, you're shacking up. You're not talking about changing my family tree. That doesn't come up. Otherwise, you would have already gone dun 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 dun. If you want to change your family tree, you need to have a family to change the tree. I mean, there's not even a tree, not even a family.
This may be controversial, but I get what he's saying. But like I said, if you have a mindset of generational wealth, just because it may not be that particular person doesn't necessarily mean that you're still not planning. It just may not be with that particular person per se. But the game plan is still the same. You just will have it where it's not directly tied to their success or what they particularly do. But I get his point. Let's carry on.
Family. So I mean, you're not thinking that way. The inherent in the socioeconomic and the psychology of living together versus marriage is short-term thinking versus long-term thinking, and that will always limit your wealth. So these guys that call us up here and they go, well, we've been engaged for 10 years, and I'm like, dude, paint or get off the ladder, really? And they do call us and
Paint or get off the ladder. That's the first time I've ever heard that in my life.
tell us that. And I've had a few calls over the years that they've been separated but not divorced for 7 years. And I'm like, why? Well, I don't want to get divorced. Well, you are divorced. You just hadn't admitted it yet. Oh my gosh.
That is not a good long-term strategy.
But you also got to keep in mind, I might be a lot controversial on this one too, is as long as they're technically legally married, if they went through the divorce process, the way the assets can be distributed could get a lot more messy. That's why they might decide to still stay married even though they're separated. Let's carry on.
Yeah, so you have, where there is no vision, the people perish. If you think long term, and you think long term with your partner called marriage, you have a much higher statistical probability of building wealth. And therefore, if you don't do that on purpose, then you have no right to whine about having not built wealth. It's not anybody's fault but yours.
Okay, and that concludes this particular video. Let me know what you think about what Dave Ramsey says in particular. My overall thoughts is I really think it comes down to who you particularly marry, like mindsets. If you have two people who are like-minded, who's thinking about investing, building generational wealth and stuff like that, of course, two people would be better than just one person doing it alone. But also you have to remember it depends on who you marry, because some people, they may be a big time spender and another one may be a big time investor, so it can definitely clash. Also, you have to remember as well is they're looking at the people who are stayed married versus the people who got a divorce. Now, if we're looking at the people on the other side of the fence who got divorced, it can definitely set them back a large way. So if you guys stayed married, I would probably agree. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button. If you're new, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'm out.